Hi, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Jennifer Cooper of JKC Mobile Notary, and welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. Today's video is the first interview of this year, and it is with the best representation I could get you of the NNA, the National Notary Association, Nicola Jackson. I hope that you'll stick around for the whole interview to hear all the amazing insight that she has for the notary businesses that you and I have together. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go meet Nicola. I am so excited to introduce you guys to today's guest, Nicola Jackson. She is the director of the Training and Education Department of the National Notary Association, where she manages the NNA hotline, has been an NNA seminar instructor, where she has taught notary law in 17 states. That's what I found so far. That might have expanded since then. She's also worked with the team that created the NNA's award-winning signing agent certification course. She is the popular and energetic face of the National Notary Association, so often seen on social media platforms. And I'm thrilled to have her here today with me and with you guys. Nicola, thanks so much for being my first interview of 2024. And I couldn't imagine starting this year of interviews with anybody else.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I've been seeing you everywhere, getting all your newsletters, so I'm excited to talk to you.
Oh, yay. Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you too. Well, let's just dive into some of these questions if you're ready. Awesome.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're going to talk about your role at the NNA, but before that, I want to know what your first introduction was to the notary world.
So it goes way back. And it actually started, my mom was a notary. And the only reason I knew what that was is because she had a notary stamp that somehow ended up in our junk drawer when I was young. And I actually, when we would set up office and play with my brothers, I would steal her notary stamp and play office with it. So I didn't realize at the time that that was a crime, impersonating a notary, but
nobody's ratting you out.
That was kind of my first exposure. But it was just coming into the NNA was my first real experience of like there was a notary world. And
interesting.
That's really the NNA started me on that kind of path.
Gotcha. Well, can you explain to people who might not know? I talk about the NNA on YouTube all the time, but in case we have deaf ears out there, what is the NNA?
So the National Notary Association, I mean, it literally is an organization that is helping people navigate the notary process. So while you can go to a state's website, you can look up how to do all the things. I think when this organization was founded, it was kind of like setting it up to make it a process where like you come to us and we're just going to walk you through the steps. Yeah. So it's how to get your commission, training if you need it, your supplies, it's all in one place. Because I do know, I mean, there's a very piecemeal way to do it if you want to go that route. But I think what's great is that the NNA helps with starting that process, but then there's the support afterwards. So there's the hotline, so you can ask the questions when you get stuck. There's the books that kind of go more in depth. And, there's like levels of people who are just the notary for their job, all the way up to what I call the nerderies, who literally want to know all the things.
Yeah.
Yep. So, awesome. You're reading all the books and you want to know all the state's laws for some unforsaken reason, but you're just passionate about it and you are curious and you want to do that research. And there's some people like that out there, and the NNA caters to everybody in between.
Awesome. When did you get connected with the NNA?
So I started as the receptionist, sitting at the front desk, got hired to be the receptionist, and I was bored. And so I was sitting at the desk reading a book, and a gentleman who, his name's Ozzie Stallworth. He actually is the Deputy Secretary of State in North Carolina now.
Oh, wow.
He caught me reading my book at my desk. And so he was like, "Oh, you like to read? I'll be right back." And he left to the warehouse, came back with a stack of every NNA book there was. And he was like, "Here, you can learn all this." And so I was like, okay, I started reading it, but I was a little like, okay, I can't do anything around here. I want a new job. And so I went to look, found a job for a public speaker. And I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And when I looked at the fax number to send the resume, it was the NNA.
Yeah.
and it was a job to be a seminar instructor. So I was like, okay, universe, I see what you did there.
Interesting.
So I became a seminar instructor and then traveled the whole country, taught notary law. So it really like snowballed into,
What you are, where you
something
are
where I
now.
started here to just have a job, and I made it my career and my passion, and I love it. So,
Amazing.
but if it wasn't for me reading a little cheeky book, I never would have been here.
Well, your current role at NNA is as a director of training and education. So what exactly does that entail?
So for the most part, I run a couple of departments. In California, there's a 6 hour required training. And
Mhm.
right after that, the state comes in and administers an exam. So what we do is we actually have them all over California. We do about 80 a month from the tip to the bottom.
Mhm.
And what we do is these seminars. So I run the team that books all of the events, the team that does all the live scan, because we offer that service there, all the instructors, and that's one facet. And then the other facet is the hotline. So keeping all the laws straight, managing the counselors, managing the consultants, and they, take those phone calls. And then also, there's the writing of the program. So we have a team that does that, but it's essentially, there's layers just to make sure that all the information is correct. We're staying on top of laws, that kind of stuff. So we have a government affairs department that we work with to just like dissect all the information and bring it in, to keep everything current, make sure everybody knows all the things.
Right. In your position as director of education, specifically, what is your opinion about the value of notaries seeking education?
Oh, it's so important. It's so important. I mean, now compared to when I started now, there's a lot more states that require the training, but literally in most places, it's, buy a stamp, buy a bond, go to the county clerk's office. Do you promise to be the best notary ever? Yes. Okay, go be one. But there's no like, here's how you do it. Here's what we're expecting. They've got laws, but they're written in statute. So, the states that have handbooks, thank you. The states that have training, but it's a big lift for those states when they pass that kind of legislation.
Right.
But slowly but surely, I really feel like they're coming around to realize how much the potential for fraud is if they don't educate notaries.
Right.
The other great thing is, compared to when I started, is how many people are out there now saying, here's how you do all the things. And you can get educated.
Yeah.
If you're not getting it from your state, here's what you do. And there's just so much information, good and bad. I will say that, parse your sources. But there's so much information out there now to do well as a notary and follow the laws and make sure that you're, understanding what you're doing and the consequences behind it. Because everyone talks about, step 1, step 2, step 3, but there's a backside of it of what happens if you don't do it correctly. And I don't think that's the part everyone talks about that much.
Yeah.
But lawsuits are the end result. And what we're seeing is the notaries are going to get thrown under the bus. Yep. So you have to make sure that you have done everything correctly and you've documented it. Yep. And that's the other component, is so many states not having journals. And making sure that you have receipts of your transactions. Because if you don't, and you haven't got that education, you got to prove that you did more than the ordinary person would. And when you're taking education that isn't required, you're already a step ahead of the game. That's right. Because you're doing more than what you had to. That's right. So
do you guys do your
protect yourself?
Yeah, for sure. With your commission training, do you guys do it outside of California? Do you do the same?
The NNA does. We have a lot of online trainings, state required trainings online. But currently the only live that we did now, not to sound like an old grandpa, but back in my day, the 17 states I used to go to all the states that did or did not have laws. And a lot of times it was, if new laws passed, we would go out there and do a seminar and talk about all the new laws. Well, now that we have Zoom and we have online, it's so much easier to just do a quick course that way. But we still, yes, we have information for all 50 states and Guam.
Okay. Well, let's walk through the offerings. You kind of have already done it, but let's just do it for the new notary who's just starting, who's looking to get commissioned in their state. where do they start with the NNA? How does that?
So the first, yeah, I mean, I definitely start on the website because there's a funnel that basically will walk you through like all the choices. And it's kind of catered to a like, how deep in this do you want to be? There's some people, depending on your personality, we're like, I want all the things. So give me everything. And there's some people who take their time, they do a lot of research before they jump into decisions, and you can kind of pick out what you want. But definitely your state required education if you have it. And then if not, we have a 90-minute course called Notary Essentials.
Yeah.
And that is state specific. And it covers, you know, the 5 steps of notarization and, you know, the specifics for the state. The things that really change the most are the identification requirements. There is the, you know, whether or not you have to have a stamp or a journal. And these are all things that even if they're not required, you should do. And I think that's really what the education does, is tells you above and beyond.
Yeah.
So there's also a publication called the Notary Public Guide. Oh my God, I can't remember the name of it right now.
I know what you're talking
Notary
about.
Public Code Professional Responsibility.
Yes.
And that's the underlying thing. When you call hotline, if the words "your state does not address this" comes out, you're going to hear what the code says. And this was something written, actually, it just celebrated its 20-year anniversary.
Wow.
It was written by a group of notary experts who got together and said, let's cover all of our bases on what we should tell notaries to do when they don't have specific guidance from their state. So things like whether or not you should notarize a document in a foreign language. A lot of states don't address little issues like that, but there's a best practice that you should follow. So that's where the NNA, I think, really shines, is it fills in the holes where the law. And the other thing that I've learned is that the laws will tell you you have to do this much. So if you follow the law, you're doing the bare minimum. When in reality, you should be doing, you know, the whole best practice for that situation, because it's protecting you and the signer for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Well, you talked about the Notary Essentials. We're going to get to you have another kind of like little course we'll talk about in a minute, but I want to talk about the signing agent training that you guys developed at the NNA, and you were part of that development. Can you talk about that program a little bit? And
yeah, so there's actually a group called the SPW. And today acronyms are not my friend. Signing Professionals Work Group. Okay. So there's a group called the SPW, the Signing Professionals Work Group, and it was comprised of lenders, title companies, notaries, everybody in the business of lending. And what they did was come together and establish these guidelines that they wanted everyone in the loan process to follow, notaries included. So what we did, I'm going to say like 10 years ago now, is revamp our NSA training to include all those guidelines. And the certification exam is actually based on those guidelines. And what we did was, these were the things that people wanted to make sure the notaries knew so that it could affect their behaviors. Like how important it is when you're dressing, the way that you're dressed. It sounds so silly, but the biggest thing that we get feedback about is how the signing agent showed up dressed. And so our training kind of goes through those things. So, you know, I know that there are people that wish we cover documents more, and there's a lot of other trainings out there that are a lot more thorough, but this is the basics from the mouths of the people who are involved in the process and what they wanted the notaries to know. And I think that's why it's important to start with the NNA and then pick your person who appeals to you and then follow their path next.
And people, I don't think people understand this when they're getting into the business, is that when you have NNA certified loan signing agent on your application, when you're applying to work with title offices and some signing services, it will get you in the door, where somebody who doesn't have it, it won't, because it looks like you've invested in yourself, but also in them by taking that course. And I've heard it over and over again.
And it's because they know that certification means that you've reviewed these SPW guidelines, you're familiar with them, you got versed in them, so that you now heard what they want you to know. And so because the fact that you need the certification every year because they're checking your background every year, right? They're making sure that nothing's changed about what you've accomplished. So, it's a certification that literally is going to get you your best foot forward. And if anyone you listen to will tell you, you got to have that first.
Yeah. Well, and you already talked about the Notary Essentials, but we also have kind of a quick start training that you guys offer.
Yes.
Who is that for?
So it's funny because it actually got developed for a specific company who said, I cannot get my employees to stop working for 3 hours to take the training. Can you teach them what the difference is between an acknowledgement and a jurat? And that training is 20 minutes long.
Gotcha.
For that exact purpose. And so it's one of those things that I would say it's for the people that don't notarize all the time. And for the people that do sporadic notarizations, or maybe you've been a notary forever, but you did it for work. And it's like one of those that you're going to watch before you have to go notarize something for that confidence booster.
Right.
Let me review all this stuff really quick. And then, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And that's what the quick start's for. So it's a great little training.
Gotcha.
But to me, I would envision people using that, who don't work for this particular company as like a review before you're going to go notarize something for the first time in a while.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay.
I don't know why every time I notarize something, I still get nervous. Like I get a little okay, let me think about this for a second. I just always, especially with a document I haven't seen, it's the most ridiculous thing because the document doesn't matter, but I still have to psych myself into that mindset. Like the document doesn't matter. You're doing the same thing. Yeah. So I know that people are so scared to oh, well, I want to make sure I know what I'm doing.
Yep.
Don't do that.
I have a lot of new notaries in my circle, and I'll get phone calls, a lot of them saying, I have this, and I can't think of a document, but something, I've been doing this for 3 years. It's not, there's really nothing new under the sun at the moment for me of things I'm going to notarize in my community. But they'll ask the signers or the clients to send them the document or send a picture of it so that they can read it so they know what they want. It's not an uncommon thing, is that people get freaked out about what the document is. So I get it. I totally get it.
But it's that quick mindset of reminding yourself it doesn't matter what the document is. The acknowledgement is going to be done the same way, no matter what. The jurat's the same way, no matter what. But I have to pep talk myself about that every single time. And so, that's why I feel like people think there's going to be this moment where they suddenly are like, okay, I'm confident and I'm ready. And I don't know that comes for everybody. So sometimes you just have to do it.
I don't know that it comes for everybody all the time. I'm pretty confident,
right?
But I'm sure there's going to be a moment and that's going to stump me. So I think that you bringing that up is really important, because I think when people see people that I interview on this channel, they think they've got all their shit together, right? They aren't afraid of anything. And so just to express that you still have to psych yourself out for that is going to touch on for a lot of people. So I'm glad that you're willing to share that.
Absolutely. No, it's true.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the annual notary conference. I haven't had, listen, don't get into me on this because I've already heard it from everybody, but I have not yet had the pleasure of attending. But because of my involvement in our notary community, I've heard so many notaries rave about their experiences at the conference. So let's start with a little bit about what the NNA conference is.
So I have been fortunate to go to a lot of them. The first question that I have for you is, are you coming this year? Okay. It's a very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. It's a very interesting phenomenon because you get, 300 notaries together in one place, and you have never had so much fun connecting, because this is such a nuanced industry, and you get all these people who you have conversations with that know what you're talking about, know the struggles, know the woes. And I'll be honest, I learn as much from the people that show up as they learn from the workshops. So there's workshops, we have a keynote, we have general sessions where we get industry leaders to come in. Last year we had a guy talking about how to detect title fraud. and that was really interesting.
Wow.
And then workshops from the amazing speakers. So it's kind of like where the notary community meets. So all these people that you've seen, on the internet, they do workshops, and you get to see them in person and really figure out who you resonate with. But then the people sitting next to you, it's a networking opportunity to grow and expand your community. Even if you meet somebody from your area, I'm a big fan of like getting backup notaries so that when you have your great clients that you can't serve that day, you have an awesome person to send them to.
Yep.
So you get to meet them in person and spend a couple of days and see how they move and figure out, do they align the way that you are, and they're there, so that they're trying to expand and know more, so they have the same mindset you do. So it's great. But then once you've gone, you want to go over and over again, so then you start seeing the same people over and over again, and that might be the only time you see them. And it's the best. And so there's a thing where we don't announce where we're going until
the end of the
very end. That's big. For the next conference, we won't say where it is. It's a big secret. And then once we reveal where it is, we have a party. And then you just have fun. So it's fun networking. You learn in the workshops, and it's the networking. But maybe the idea of socializing is not for everybody. Maybe you just want to go and do the workshops. There's a workshop pass too. And then I didn't even mention there's an exhibit hall with exhibitors, and we have title companies, signing services. So if there's a company that you want to, work for, you get to walk up to them and go, "Hi, I'm so-and-so from California. And I would love to sign up with your service." And usually it's the owner that's sitting there, and you get to talk to them and like hear about it and give them your card. So it's not, you might have been, I've seen people are like, "I've been emailing with them for years. This is the first time I met them." And I don't know, it elevates it. So I love it. I would recommend it to anyone who can do it. It's just the best experience. And you would not think notaries are so much fun, but they are.
I happen to know that they are a lot of fun, but yes.
A lot of fun.
Being held this year?
This year it's in Orlando, Florida. And originally it was scheduled for May 12th to the 14th, but then we realized May 12th is Mother's Day. And so, I don't know if you know the lovely statistic, 75% of notaries are women. So we were like, well, that doesn't work. So we actually shifted the dates. So we are going to have it now from May 13th to 15th so that we don't interrupt Mother's Day. So we did a full shift of days. So it will now be the 13th to the 15th in Orlando, Florida. And it's just so much squeezed into a couple of days, but it's amazing.
And we will put links to that in the description box so that there's still time to get tickets and get your hotels and stuff like that. So don't skip on this if you can do it. Okay, so how do you guys decide what city the conference will be in? There's got to be a major machine behind that decision.
There absolutely is. We really go for affordability. So one of the precursors is Southwest has to fly there. Because notice I didn't say Spirit. I said Southwest. But so we look for places Southwest flies, because on a good day you can get across the country, for relatively inexpensive. We look at, there's a lot of us, and we try to offer as many workshops as possible. So we're looking at cities with hotel space that has, the ability for us to do, 5, 6, 7, 8 workshops at a time, so that people can maximize what they're learning. But so it's mostly an affordability factor of where we choose. And then we try to go spread out around the country. And, the pattern that people have told me they notice is that we go from one coast to the other. Sometimes we're in the middle, but really that's coincidence. It's just us trying to find all the things. But, the very first conference was in Hawaii. Because that's where our chairman was from. He's from Hawaii. So everyone is waiting for us to go back. But
maybe that would be my
first. It would be hard to do Hawaii. There you go.
Well, so in addition to the conference, you guys also have your sponsor what we call success summits, right? Can you share a little bit about those? Because they happen online mostly, or
so the success They do. They're an online thing, and that's actually run by Susie Sivkov, who I work really
Gotcha.
closely with.
Gotcha.
And she is also a lifer at the NNA, like myself. We've been working together a long time. But the goal of that is really just to track industry trends and get people in who are talking about stuff that's happening right now.
Gotcha.
And so usually they happen quarterly, and we'll bring in people from the industry that are just going to talk about what's happening in that moment. So that's, they're all online.
Mhm.
And it's exciting because it's, like a 2-hour presentation.
Mhm.
Some of them have been a little bit longer. And I think that what we've figured out is that, people just want to sit for a couple hours
Yeah.
and get all the information. But we've had a lot of amazing people come in to talk about stuff. So,
last year, your
but yeah,
success.
so if one is not able to make it to the
Yeah.
conference, the Success Summit is kind of a great substitute.
Perfect. Last year's Success Summit was featured the founders of NBB, the Notary Business Builders. And I want to ask you, how do you identify leaders in the notary industry that you align with? Or like, what are the qualifications you and the NNA look for when you guys are linking up with notary leadership or notary influencers?
I mean, it's a lot of things. It's who we notice that are doing things. What is their message? What are they saying? And NBB in particular, I mean, they just radiate positivity. Bill, Jen, and Laura, and Laura actually is also a seminar instructor on my team here in California. So she does all those things, but they deliver a wide range between, the notary knowledge, the marketing aspects, and then all the stuff Bill does, because he covers such a wide gamut of making you feel great about yourself and being business savvy and stuff you need to think about. And then this last Success Summit, the session that Laura did was about how to make sure you're getting paid.
Yep.
But not like how much you should charge, but it was like how to actually and broke it down with numbers. And I was sitting there watching thinking, I don't even think people realize how important what she just said was.
Yeah.
So if you didn't see it, shameless plug coming, they actually do the Success Summit on demand so that you can buy it and watch the recording of what happened. And she literally gave everyone a formula of how to do that. And take a little bit for you, and here's what you do with this. So when Nicola, you get paid, you should be allocating this and this and this.
I'm looking at a post-it note on my computer that says "Pay yourself first" with her breakdowns.
And that but no one's ever said that.
No.
So that's one thing. The other is people who are just doing great things, or people that we know have successful businesses, but more importantly, that are willing to share. Because when I started, there was no sharing. Everybody was competition. Nobody told anybody anything. And I don't know where this well, maybe it was, after the 2008 market kaboom. I think when everyone kind of started back up again, it was like hey, we're all in this together. We all just lost businesses. We all just slowed down. I mean, you think it's slow right now? 2008 was nothing.
Nothing was happening for anybody. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So
Laura's talked about that kind of environment of people being nobody sharing anything because we're all competitors. So
nothing.
I can't even imagine. But I love the way it is.
So to have the people that come out now are like, let me tell you what I did. And let me tell you some stuff that works for me. And that a lot of that too is what was happening at the conference, but nobody was saying it out loud, or they had to write a book. Well, now there's the internet, right? And there's social media, and you can put a 10-second TikTok that says 3 things I wish I knew, and spill some great knowledge. And that's the kind of thing that we're looking for, is just who's sharing what they know, and just those kinds of things.
Gotcha. Okay. Another NNA project you helped create was the NNA Notary Influencer of the Year. So the 2023 Influencer of the Year was Mark Wills from the Loan Signing System. Where did the idea come from to create such a designation within the NNA?
So how can I say it? I want to say this nicely. The pandemic and the market in the pandemic brought out a lot of notary experts. And what I mean by that is like people got busy during the pandemic and were like, okay, I got this. And so I think, it just suddenly everyone in notary, like it used to be I was playing Candy Crush and like a Mark Wills commercial would come up. And this was, before the pandemic. Well, after the pandemic, everybody was on the internet saying all the things. And it's like a lot of people are getting their information here. How do we award and recognize the people that are really making an impact in the community? But more importantly, never mind what the NNA thinks. We have the Notary of the Year to distinguish what the NNA thinks and philanthropy. That's like the hardest word to say.
Right.
They're doing stuff for the notary community. They're doing philanthropic stuff. That's Notary of the Year. The influencer is like, who is somebody who's making an impact on social media? And let's let the notaries pick who it is. And that's really what influencer of the year is it's more a notary voting, and the community chooses it rather than a panel or a committee.
So the community also puts in their nominations, and then you guys pick the highest.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so we take the top 3. So at conference this year, we'll actually announce who the finalists are going to be, and we will be launching this at the end of this month to start the nomination process all over again.
Gotcha.
So, if there's somebody who you love, you should definitely nominate them and get everyone to nominate them.
Yeah.
Because we want to know, like, who do people love? Who resonates with you? Who do you see out there and go, I'm so glad that they're out here giving me all my information.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I want to switch back a little bit to your role at the NNA and your staff, some of whom I've had the pleasure of meeting. Can you tell me a little bit about them and how you, as a team, you guys work to help support notaries and notary education?
So I'm going to start with the hotline team because they are like the group of notaries, and you have never seen a group of people more committed to making sure they know the laws backwards and forwards. And it's interesting because people call the hotline and maybe they're not keen on the answer and they call back and they, may get an answer that doesn't, sound the same. But, as you hear the first answer, you kind of get the second answer. But these are the most passionate people. And the funny part is when we used to all be in the office before COVID, we would literally have like stand-ups and debates and talk and argue out like, well, no, because of this and no, because of this. Yeah. And so we've kind of had to resort to chats about that now.
Because everybody's working from home.
Everybody's working at home now. Yeah. But the great thing is like, how when we get ones that stump all of us. So like somebody will give us something. Something happened recently and no one had ever asked this question. And it was so obvious. Like it was so part of everyday life that we're like, how has no one ever asked this before? And of course I can't remember what it is, but all of a sudden it was like, let's jump on a call and let's talk it out and figure it out. And then what we do is Bill Anderson is our Vice President of Government Affairs, and he is like the final say. He's our expert. So we'll all come together by committee and go, okay, Bill, we think it's this. And then he'll do his research and come back and kind of say, well, look at this and look at that. And so he's never telling us, yay or nay. He always makes us figure it out, which I love. Yeah. But he'll go, look at this statute. What about this? And consider this. And, one thing I want people to really know is how gray the law is. There's no black and white. You're never going to get a yes or a no about every situation.
Right.
Just because there's always going to be those times where like what it is doesn't apply. So that's that team. They're so passionate about making sure the information. And then with the instructors, you can imagine how hard it is to keep people engaged for 6 hours talking about notary law and teach. And not only that, they have to take a test at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So but they do it. And so we've kind of come up with like memory tools to help people learn. Mm-hmm. And we make people do silly songs and make them say, silly things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, people are taking that exam and they are doing all the little like memory tools that we taught them.
Yeah.
And they're passing the exam.
Right.
And so I really give them credit. And also, they do study to find out about adult learning theory so that we're addressing if someone's an auditory learner or a visual learner. And even for English language learners who are English isn't their first language, we look at culturally, like how does each group learn so
Right.
that we know, like, to cater it specifically to make
Right.
sure people pass.
You want them to pass. We want good
We want them to
notaries.
pass.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, when
Absolutely.
sometime this summer, I'll be doing my renewal, and we'll be taking my class here in town, hopefully with Laura. But when I got commissioned, it was in 2021. So everything was online, and the instructor I had, and I want to talk to the instructors because I know Laura Buer very, very well. And the instructor I had, and I don't remember her name, but I wasn't bored at all. She was incredibly entertaining. She was really good at what she was doing. So you guys are picking good people to do this. You're not just throwing people at the wall and saying, there you go, teach a 6-hour class and send them on their way. So
it's such a long training process too. Yeah. It's a really long training process that they go through, and they take all the critiques, but we're putting them out there to teach in front of groups because that's the only way that you're going to learn. But they know the things. They know what they need to know. And it's just a case of like getting the information down because, it's one thing to just say what the stuff is, but you're also, what we pride ourselves on at our seminars is we're also teaching you how to answer the test questions because they're tough. That test got in 2021 in July, they just up and decided to change it. They made it twice as long. And so, yes.
Oh, wow.
And so it went from a 30 question to a 45 question. And so we really had to like tackle how to answer test questions too.
Right.
Because you get 50 minutes. So it's about a minute and some change per question. But again, people are still passing it because they're staying engaged and they're trusting the process. So
I love it.
That can only be done if the person that's in front of you. And for you to say that on Zoom, you got that same experience is wonderful to me because that's even harder when you can't see the faces of the audience to know, like, are they laughing at my silly joke? Are they doing the participation? So that's, credit to my team. They're the best.
Yeah, they are the best. You have a great team. Okay. Over the last year specifically, and you may have been doing this longer, but specifically over the last year, I've noticed how very present you are on social media. So I want to ask, what's inspired you to step out in front of the NNA like that in your department in this capacity specifically?
A few things. One is, not being an instructor anymore. I don't really do as much public speaking.
Okay.
And just the person that I am, I need a creative outlet. So those videos are kind of my creative outlet.
Gotcha.
The second reason is I feel like sometimes the NNA can get that like corporate kind of reputation of like, we're this big company. And I want people to know that there are people at the NNA, a lot of people at the NNA that really care about notaries.
Right.
And so just having that, like, we're not, corporate stiffies, we're fun too.
Yeah.
And you would never know that if you didn't see us. And the third is I have to give credit to my team. There is a woman named Sean Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
She is a social media genius in her own right. She does like something on the side. And she got with me and was like, hey, do you want to have a little fun? And so instead of just kind of posting where I was and the events that I was doing, she gave me the idea to kind of do the fun, silly stuff that you probably noticed. And so it's Sean Quinn, who's actually, she is Notary Nicola. I'm just the pretty face. I'm the talent. But she is that genius. And she kind of encouraged me to just be silly and have fun with it. And I've loved it. So, but that, there's a lot of people here that really care about notaries. And I just want to make sure that I get to be one of the faces that people realize, is here,
you're doing a great job because I can share those videos with other people when they have questions, and I love them. But then, okay, do you think that's important for notary business owners to have a social media presence like that?
I think it helps. I think it helps. I mean, it depends what you're trying to do, right? I mean, and it depends who you're trying to attract because, my folks, my age folks, we go to Google. But my understanding now is, the younger generations go straight to TikTok for everything. They're searching more on TikTok than they are on YouTube and Google. That's their Google now.
Yep.
So, do I think that, yeah, but I will say that, one of the workshops that we're going to offer at conference is how to do basic Canva skills. So it's a tool, it's free.
Yep.
And even if you just learn how to make yourself a flyer, right? Because what happens is like you hear, oh, well, you can pay someone, pay a digital marketer, and they'll make you a flyer. But sometimes when you're starting out, you don't have that luxury.
That's
true. You got to do everything yourself.
It's true.
So, having someone do our workshop, and you're going to walk away with a flyer just to get started and learn those basic skills and then, spend more time doing it. I mean, I love stuff like that. So I feel like with all the information that's out there, you hear it, verify it, and then, do all the things. But yes, there's so much great info on social media. So at least be paying attention. Yeah. Maybe you don't have to be the one making TikTok videos and, doing the things, but watching is important.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Nicola, is there anything you'd like to share about what's coming up for this year? We are doing this in January, so there's a whole year to go. I'd love to hear anything you want to highlight for the NNA.
So at the end of the month, I think January 31st, Susie Sivakov and I are hosting a first ever NNA Book Club. And so we're going to, yeah. So we actually are going to start with the Notary Answer book. It's one of our books, but what it has is all the answers to the most commonly asked things notaries cannot do and why you can't do it. Okay. But it's all well and good to know that the NNA has these books, but like, did you know that this is how you use it? So it's literally like, when I've explained to people, I'm so sorry, I can't notarize without you being here because of X and Y and Z, and I will literally cite the law. I know the law, I tell them the law. Yeah. And so they want to continue to persist. So I go to my library, pull the book out. I show them the page in this book. Look, the book says I can't do it. Oh, okay. And that's the end of the argument. Right. And so it's almost an insulting tool, but it's super effective. Gotcha. But just like all book clubs, you know how you start talking about the book and then it like veers off and you have whole other conversations. Yeah. We just want to engage with people, start with, this book. And our hope is down the line that, as we get through books, we'll bring on authors and other people who have written books for the community and just, yes, it's supposed to be fun. And, we're starting with NNA books because, I don't know if everyone realizes how many resources that we have. Yeah. Some that are long reads and some that are super easy and some that can actually just be a tool to help you with your signers. So we're going to do that on January 31st. It'll be through Zoom. It'll be free. Okay.
NNA is going to send something out, right?
We are going to send something out. So, I know it's, pretty late into January already, but we're just going to throw this spaghetti and see if it sticks, and we'll try another one next month.
I think that's great.
But we'll see.
I think that's great.
Yeah, okay. I'm excited.
Book club. What else is coming up this year?
The conference. Right. I personally am going to the Pacific Northwest meet and greet. I'm very excited about that.
I heard that you're the keynote speaker for that. That's cool.
I am. I'm very excited about that. I'm also extremely nervous.
Are you?
But I am. I am.
Nicola, you're going to be surrounded by notaries that love you.
I know. That's what I'm afraid of.
No, it's going to be awesome.
No, you know what? Speaking about the importance of education and just, what I hope is that I can connect with people and just kind of let them know what I told you earlier. Yeah. There are so many people that come to these things that are just waiting. They're waiting for something to happen before they go and get this thing started, that they've done so much work and they haven't really tried. Yeah. And you can hear all the inspiring things. I mean, Bill, Laura, and Jen are some of the most inspiring people. Mark Wills is always inspiring people, but there's so many people that still hold back. And, that's going to be my message. Don't hold back. Just do it.
I have notaries in my network that have been commissioned as long as I have never, ever used their stamps because of
Yeah,
fear
there's
and those kinds of things. So yeah, you're right.
we're conditioned as humans for fear,
We are.
to be afraid of what we don't know, and we have to get over it. We
Yeah,
have to.
we
And
100%.
that fear doesn't go away, and that's it. The fear is not going away. Have the fear, overcome it. You will never feel so good about yourself after you
Right.
do it.
That's right. You're 100% right. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Because I will link everything that the NNA has on their calendar in the description. But if there's anything else you want to point out besides
Yeah,
those,
I mean, just the conference, and then Notary Public Day is November 7th, so we're
right?
gonna do another fun event for that, but we don't have anything to link to that yet. But
Okay.
as things happen, the Success Summit is gonna be February 23rd.
Okay.
So there'll be stuff for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's exciting, and people will get emails about this if you are a member of the NNA, which I highly encourage you to do because they give you so many resources, but mostly it's about the support you get from the NNA. So I'll give you
Right.
down
And
below.
listen, hotline, everybody gets a one-time courtesy call. So if you ever do find yourself in a jam and you're not an NNA member, you can still call the hotline, call
Awesome.
and see what they can do. Because I guarantee you, once you talk to them once, you'll want the ability to call again.
It's true.
There's so many people that swear by that hotline. And honestly, I will say this, when people call the hotline, they already know what that person is going to tell them. They just want the confirmation. Sometimes
Yep.
it's literally just another person to go,
Yep.
yep, you're right. And when you text your notary friends, like, you don't know how long it's going to take them to respond back to
Yep.
you. And that's like, you're sitting there with the customer and you're waiting and waiting and waiting and they don't respond. Whereas hotline, you can literally just call and get that answer right away. So, and it's 6 days a week.
Yeah,
And it's open almost 12 hours.
my first year as a notary, weekly at least, I was on the phone with hotline. It's a lifesaver. And today, when I come up against more difficult things or questions I have or questions people are asking me that I'm not sure about, and I just want clarification to make sure I'm right. Signing by signature by mark, for example, for some reason, the last part of the year last year, I had a dozen of them, and I know how they work.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
I know how they work. I know what you're supposed to do, but my first 2 or 3, I call Laura and she's not available. I call hotline.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, just remind me to make sure I'm not crazy. So
no,
yeah.
and honestly, I'm going to tell you, that's a huge percentage of calls is hey, I think it's this. Can you just confirm?
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about having that person just agree with you, that now you're doing it and there's that confidence back that you were worried about.
Yeah. I want to tell you this too.
Especially with out-of-state wording, when you live in California and you get some out-of-state wording, that is probably the thing that I would call about the most is just, I'm pretty sure this is what I'm supposed to do, but I want to read it to somebody else because I love hearing the words, Nicola, you're right. So
when the big one that happened last year that the hotline was a part of was another signature by mark, and the county recorder was refusing it. And so when I got on the phone with the county recorder and they spout their rules at me, I said, I'm almost 100% sure you're wrong. I'm sure that this is in California, this is how it's supposed to be. Calling the NNA hotline saying, guys, here's the situation. Told her the whole situation. She backed up my research and said, you're right. And so when I went back to the recorder's office, I said, I've talked to the NNA. I've researched I told her everything I did. She went back to her book and realized she had misread her law. But the county recorder had. I tell people to call the hotline all the time because I find them to be the most invaluable resource for a notary that you can possibly have. It's like having a built-in encyclopedia for notary work.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic.
Yeah.
I've never had a bad.
And yes, you can get the answer online, but you don't know who's written whatever it is.
Not when I'm.
It's Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Nope.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome, Nicola. Well,
yeah, and then one last thing, if I can, is our Find a Notary directory. This is something that came out this year.
Yes.
Do you know that over the year we get like 50,000 inquiries at our website every year asking for notaries, and we literally are like, why don't we have a place to send them?
Yep.
And so I would highly recommend you sign up for that. Make sure you do opting in and all the things, because I know if you haven't done that, then it's harder for people to find you. And this is something that's going to be constantly updated and fixed. They're already working on like sending messages via text and updating how fast you can get the information. So it's ever changing to be better and better and better. So
I'm sorry I didn't bring
depending on the area that you're in.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
It just left my brain. I got hired. I think I got 3 jobs within the first week that was open.
That is wonderful.
Yeah. So it's really fantastic. I love the NNA.
Okay, well, good. That makes me happy to hear.
Yeah. The last question I want to ask you, and I'm asking everyone that I'm interviewing this year, is if you could give one piece of advice to notaries today, what would that be?
Well, we talked a lot about the just do it, so I won't say that. What I'll say is to just fact check your sources. So when you're hearing stuff from people, just do a quick little due diligence to make sure that what they've told you is correct, unless it's the NNA, of course. No, but even still, like, because the stuff that you may be hearing, if you haven't caught the whole context, someone could be just spouting what their state rule is, rather than looking at it from the side of like the best practice for a notary. But really make sure that you are vetting your sources and that you've kind of checked that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and that you question things when they don't seem right. If something doesn't seem right, ask those questions. Just because ultimately it comes back to you. This is a very individualized industry that we're in. We're a community, but at the end of the day, doing the notarial acts is you individually. And so it's really important that you do all this for you.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. And I think it's really important people hear it, because you're right. At the end of the day, it falls on us, and people will throw us under the bus. So if you know what you're doing, you're not going to make mistakes as often.
I mean, look at the county clerk. You had to go tell her, and then she had to go back. And if somebody didn't have that personality to say, hey, would you mind checking again? Because I'm pretty sure I got this right. There's a lot of people that wouldn't do that. And you were right. So, you do have to stick up for yourself, because you are really you're your only advocate. Your company is you and you and you.
Do you know that recorder sends me business?
I love it. I love it. Well, that notary knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful that you
That's beautiful.
Sit down with me, Nicola, today. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we got to talk and dig into the NNA a little bit. I talk about the NNA, but I'm me. You are the face people are going to recognize. And I love having a chance to kind of dig into it a little bit at the beginning of the year, and while people still have time to go to the conference, if that's something they want to do. So thank you so much.
Definitely. We would love to see you. Oh, thank you for having me. And listen, you are everywhere also, and keep doing what you're doing, because, even though I know you started, mid-pandemic, but, you can tell you really care about this. So, keep doing all the things, because you got yourself in, with some really cool people. So good for you.
I do. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love those.
I like them a lot.
I know. I do too. Well, we're going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And Nicola, have a great 2024 with an NNA.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Nicola. I hope that you got some better insight into the NNA. And more than anything, if you are interested, I hope that you'll jump on now and get your tickets and your flight tickets or your tickets to the NNA conference happening in May. The links to that registration is down below. Links to everything we talked about will be in the description box down below. And if you are somebody looking to be a notary, or you are a new notary and you haven't gone through or haven't looked at the NNA, I highly, highly encourage you to go to the NNA's website, check out what they have to offer, become a member, get access to the hotline, get access to the resources, get access to the training and to the events that come up. So I hope this has helped you. I'm really proud of my relationship with the NNA, my relationship with Nicola Jackson, and I hope that you guys would find your way to having a relationship with them as well. Until next week, I wish you guys the best of luck. Don't miss those links down below. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, follow, ring the bell so you don't miss a video. We'll see you next Sunday. Bye.